What does Taoism reinforce about the significance of existence, life? If life is a part of the total and placed in isolation of the total in order to prevent the contamination of creation of the new, then life has more significance than we had ever imagined. To exist in order to influence the growth, the actual direction of a causative force, elevates life to a level never before defined by the West. In the past, we have defined ourselves to be members of, quote, the superior race, unquote. We have defined ourselves to know the mind of God or the causative force. We have claimed to be the chosen ones. We have defined others to be heathen, mentally handicapped, perverted, intellectually inferior, physically inferior. And each perception led to physical and mental violence of phenomenal proportions, like dominoes. On the other hand, our history is not all negative. We have defined ourselves to be members of the same flock, all human, brothers through the soul. We have established the Emancipation Proclamation, the Magna Carta, and claimed equality for all men. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights. We have held to the concepts of being our brother's keeper, all one with nature, and do unto others as you would have them do unto you. These items also led to physical and mental violence of phenomenal proportions, but in these situations, the product was quite the opposite for the first examples. The difference in the end result appears to emanate from the initial starting point of reference. In the first paragraph, one individual was viewed to be a lesser being than another. In the second paragraph, one individual was viewed to be equal in status to all others. As we elevated the perception we had of each other and the perception we had of ourselves, we significantly elevated our behavior toward others. In addition, as we elevated our perceptions of what we are, we lowered our level of what we would tolerate in terms of behavior directed at ourselves and others in society. The Taoist process of sensing nature to better come into contact with our sense of purpose, to retain what it is we are all about and not allow the glitter and fast pace of Western life to obscure our vision of the bigger picture, has much merit and is by no means a technique we should lose. It has far too much to offer us in our lifestyles, are subjected to the temptation to accelerate and speed past the roses. Stop and smell the roses. How does Taoism help us understand what life is? The word is also used to mean reality as a whole, as a way, which consists of all the individual ways. The implication is that we have to be true to ourselves, for this sense of truth is the only means we have of following what we sense is our path in life. Taoism is based upon the concept of the whole being the sum of all individual ways. If life is in an individual way and the whole is the sum of these ways, how could we ever presume to speak for the whole? But some would say that the whole has spoken and told our fathers before us that such and such behavior is acceptable behavior. That is all well and good, but what right have we to force others to conform to our beliefs and sense of direction? A woman is a woman, and just because a man likes being a man and senses being a man is right for him, he has no right to force a woman to undergo the surgery required to become a man. A Caucasian is white, and although Asians outnumber whites by 2 to 1 in the world, gives them no right to force whites to subject themselves to the process of changing their physical appearance to conform to the physical appearance of an Asian. Unless, of course, you're into Hollywood makeup, but that's another story. If we accept some differences, why can't we accept all differences? Life is a journey intended to be taken unimpeded by others. We may offer opinions, we may offer assistance, we may offer our views, we may counsel, but we have no right to interfere with the journey. It is sacred. It is for that soul alone. But just as we have no right to interfere with the journey of a soul, we have an even greater responsibility to understand that right to journey unimpeded, and therefore we have a responsibility to protect that right for all individuals. To do this, we may have to go to the extreme of isolating some individuals in order to prevent them from interfering with the journeys of others. The right to journey life unimpeded takes precedence over the individual's journey. The principle takes precedence over the action. Taoism teaches that the whole is the sum of its individual ways. Life lies in the individual. The simplicity of Taoism teaches us tolerance, not the Western complexity of law and order. Taoism recognized the whole as being the sum of the individual ways. Through this understanding, Taoism provides the simplistic acknowledgement of the rights of the individual over the demands of conformity imposed by society. What does Taoism have to offer us as individuals? Assuming Taoism is correct, assuming life is to be lived in harmony with nature, and none in their right minds would argue with that, what significance could this simply or imply about existence, life? Assume for a moment we are a piece of the causative force, or what religions call God, or the divine, or the ultimate absolute. By way of being located within the causative force, as posited by Panentheism, and specifically Symbiotic Panentheism, assume also we are isolated from the causative force through the vastness of space, a rather large distance. If we were to seek out means of feeling a closeness to God, the causative force, one would have two options. One could search within, or one could search without. The East chose the first, searching through, or within and through, meditative practice and contemplation. The West chose mainly the second, searching outside through the scientific process or observation, five sensory perception. We have already examined the Western approach in the section in Science. The Eastern approach of meditation is attempted in the West through a process of prayer, and these are very similar, reaching out to God or the causative force. The Eastern approach is one of reaching inward, sensing the presence of the causative force through meditation. I would add that in the Western esoteric and mystical traditions, this is done through the practice of contemplation or contemplative prayer, which is very similar to Eastern meditative practice. Taoists felt the best way to accomplish the fact of connecting to the original source, the causative force, was through the simplicity of nature, and this is the pantheistic aspect, which many other traditions maintain as well throughout history. One needed to shuck the artificial layers of society, the fast pace and material distractions of society, if one was to obtain a sense of connection to the whole. The ultimate goal was to make the contact. This is also noted as enlightenment or illumination, or even theosis. But the question remains, why is this important? Taoism is unable to answer this question. Taoism, like science, religion, and other philosophies, needs the base that explains the reason to this question. With the base established, Taoism survives for a long time and continues offering us means of staying in touch with and understanding the bigger picture as we continue to examine the intricacies of its smaller parts. If we are within God, or the causative force, we are a part of the causative force. Classical theism doesn't view it this way. If we are journeying with free will, we may have the ability to influence the growth of the causative force through symbiosis, a means of interdependent connection. What better way to sense one's purpose as an individual than to come into contact with the whole, the causative force, then through the whole of her creation, nature, or what we can call Mother Nature. Through this contact, the sense of oneness with the causative force, one can sense the correctedness of one's decision in terms of the direction one should take in life. Once this connection has been made, it cannot be severed, even by physical death. The sense of direction provides us with a sense of comfort and confidence as we go about our hectic and tumultuous daily lives. What significance does Taoism have to offer us as a species? The word is also used to mean reality as a whole, which consists of all the individual ways. The West brings out the best in our potential to gain knowledge of our environment through observation. The West turned its efforts out or toward developing our ability to finding the small, the basic building blocks, and finding the large, the boundary of the universe. The West has made great strides in the field of science, the field of understanding both the large and the small of the universe, the macro and the microcosm. Classical physics and quantum mechanics. As such, the West has moved its expertise of examination far from the essence of the individual, and this has brought about what is known as the fast-paced life for individuals in society. Life in the fast lane. The faster life becomes, the more we move as individuals, appear to lose our sense of orientation, direction, and purpose. We are being swallowed up by the complexity and size of the universe itself. The Western approach of resting on the seventh day has helped us retain some control over our fast-paced life, but the seventh day is rapidly losing its influence to the need for more time to fulfill what is perceived as our obligations to economics, society, and family. Taoism offers us the ability to return to a sense of purpose. Taoism offers us a process of being able to give our weary bodies and minds a rest from the complexity of life, while our essence, awareness, takes time to reconfirm its intuitive sense of orientation, rejuvenate its intuitive sense of direction, and secure its intuitive sense of purpose. Our species needs this sense of purpose, orientation, and direction just as much as the individual. We must look to individuals to understand what appears to be our purpose as a species. Taoism tells us that it is individuals who comprise the species, and as such, it is the overall direction the majority of individuals of our species are taking, which we wish our species to take. The big picture concerning what lies beyond the universe, why we exist, although perhaps abstractly, it is nevertheless a pervasive concept. And what connection and purpose we have in regards to the whole picture of existence is seemingly elusive. Taoism provides us with the concept of meditation, looking inward In order to sense the whole, as we immerse ourselves within nature, the process prevents the materialism and the fast-paced lifestyle of the West from distracting us. What significance does Taoism have to offer other life forms in the universe, provided we find life elsewhere in our search? Reality as a whole, which consists of all the individual ways, the Taoist concept of sensing one's purpose through contact with one's natural environment from which one's ancestry evolved or was created, is critical. If one does have a purpose, if life has purpose, then it is quite possible that the most natural means of sensing this purpose is to immerse one's self within the natural environment from which one's physical being emerged. This process would need to occur for different lengths of time and different frequencies for different people and different life forms. Although the frequencies and time spans may differ from individual to individual and from life form to life form, the principle remains the same: connecting, sensing, feeling. However one wishes to express it, the process of understanding the purpose of one's journey through this physical universe can most efficiently, intensively, confidently be done through immersion of one's self within one's natural environment. Taoism, by underlying this point, leads us to understand the significance of unique environments for unique life forms throughout the heavens. We as individuals, as a species, as life forms, have little choice but to take this responsibility seriously. If we do not, we destroy a major aspect of a life form, be it our own or another. If we are a part of God, the causative force, if we are a piece of the causative force, then the action of destroying environments is not as much an action taken against life forms, but an action taken against God. Symbiotic panentheism places a major responsibility upon all of us, terrestrial or otherwise. Symbiotic panentheism blended with Taoism and all of its concepts adds much purpose to Taoism. By acknowledging the specific need for nature, Taoism leads us to understand why nature is so important. Taoism, on the other hand, gains respectability with SP, for its message becomes a message not intended for just our species, Homo sapiens, but for all life forms throughout the entire universe, or universes. The home of life forms throughout the universe are to be respected for what they are, natural niches within which life forms may immerse themselves to maintain their sense of purpose.